Hey, one last thing I wanted to ask you though.
Yeah.
Out of all of the shows that only ran for one season ever in creation, which is your favorite?
One season shows?
Uh-huh.
Oh man. What are some? I can't even think of any right now.
Cowboy Bebop.
That's only one season?
Because it's just like 50 episodes.
Oh wow. Most people are surprised when they learn that the original Star Trek series only ran 3 seasons.
Yep.
Like people think of it as this iconic, which it is, an iconic show, but it did it all in 3 seasons.
Well, my pick for number 1 is the original Doctor Who, which only ran for 1 season.
Oh yeah. That totally was only one season.
Because technically...
Everybody who hasn't caught up on Classic Who, what are you waiting for? There's only 13 episodes. Netflix.
The rest of that is something else. It's called Doctor Who, but it's something else.
I believe Netflix made it, and then the rest was Christmas specials.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Okay, so you ready to do this episode?
Yep.
Let's go.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Colin.
And welcome to the Houseplants Podcast. We're here to talk about... do we even remember these? Music, media, and mission.
Oh, Jesus.
Are we still out of town? Or are our brains still out of town? That's how I feel.
Yep.
At this moment.
Both of us have just recently come back from big, awesome trips where we got to spend time with the ones we love most. Yeah. Isn't that great?
We both got out and got to be in God's creation, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's a lot of God's creation in Branson, from like the cowboy themed music halls to the all-you-can-eat chicken wing
Silver Dollar City roller coasters.
No, I mean, it's all part of God's creation. Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But
you did get to go hiking and stuff though, too, right?
Oh, we got to go hiking. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll talk about how cool our trip was. But
awesome.
Do you want to do some worship?
Yeah, let's start with a song. So today we are talking about Sabbath. Mm-hmm. And if I could turn it into a verb, Sabbathing, perhaps.
Sabbathing, yeah, it'd have to be.
Sabtin.
Oh, man. Yeah, hashtag Sabbathing. Yeah. And so, that sounded really dumb.
Please, nobody make that a hashtag.
For one moment, I felt like a dumb, 2014 social media person.
There you go. I mean, that's one step closer than we were. So.
Yeah, I know, right? When everybody else figures out this internet thing, we'll be releasing some ebooks and some hashtags.
Horse ebooks.
So
look that up on Twitter.
Virtual zoo. And so this song is Flourish. This was Zach's idea that because we're taking a break in the way that we kind of we put together these original works, that this time we would just do a song we already do really well, which is the theme of this.
We're just going to do a little bit different version of it, more Sabbathy, if I could make it an adjective.
So you guys will probably recognize it. We don't even need to say which one it is.
But apparently Psalm 92 is a psalm for the Sabbath.
Anybody who's looking through their Bible can read that right there in the subheader, unless they're reading one that is like, no titles, only the original
I don't
text.
know who came up with the fact that it is a psalm for the Sabbath, but that is a traditional reading of it, so we're going to do it.
Let's go.
To praise the Lord and sing music to your name, your love and faithfulness. In this song we will proclaim, glad in what your hands have done, your deeds they bring me joy. Evildoers and wicked ones will forever be destroyed. Most high I am planted in your house, I'll flourish in the courts of the Lord. Though the wicked sprout like weeds, I will flourish in the courts of the Lord. I will flourish in the courts courts of the Lord. For you are my rock, and I will flourish in the courts of the Lord. I have heard and I have seen the defeat of all my foes. And though the wicked wilt away, the righteous will grow. It is good to praise you, God. It's you that we adore. Always greenwood fruit will bear when planted in the house of the Lord. O Most High, I am planted in your house. I'll flourish in the courts of the Lord. Though the wicked sprout like weeds, I will flourish in the courts of the Lord. I will flourish in the courts of the Lord. For you are upright, and I will flourish in the courts of the Lord. But you, Lord, are forever exalted, and you, Lord, are forever exalted, and you, Lord, are forever exalted. But you, Lord, are forever exalted, and you, Lord, are forever exalted. You, Lord, are forever exalted. Yeah, almost high, I am planted in your house. I'll flourish in the courts of the Lord. Though the wicked sprout like weeds, I will flourish in the courts of the Lord. Almost high, I am planted in your house. I'll flourish in the courts of the Lord. Though the wicked sprout like weeds, I will flourish in the courts of the Lord. I will flourish in the courts of the Lord. For you are my rock, and I will flourish in the courts of the. You are upright, and I will flourish in the courts of the. You are our God, and we will flourish in the courts of the Lord.
Amen.
Amen. That was nice and chill.
Yeah, very, very chilled out. Because we're just taking that day.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That seventh day. Oh man. So, speaking of seventh day, Zach, real quick before we pray, what are we talking about today? Would you say?
We are talking about our trips and giving you guys a little bit of an update on some of those kinds of things. Regular life stuff. Then we're going to talk about why it's important that we take these little retreats, why we rest.
Every now and again. My friend Jason would say a week just means 7 no matter what. So if you say 77 weeks, what you really mean is 77 years times 7.
Okay.
One time.
That's not confusing
No,
at all.
I know. I was like, wait, what? No, he made it a lot more clear.
And
for
I
me.
can't math, but
So, okay. Zach, do you want to pray?
yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Father, I just thank you so much that you allow us rest and time to chill and time to just be with you, be still in your presence, and just to rest and recharge. Thank you for those times that you've called us to take. I pray that our listeners would feel like they should allow themselves a little bit of a break whether it be something they really need this week or just a rhythm that they need to get into. Lord, I pray that you would just speak through us, and that our podcast would speak well of you, would honor you and lift you up. It's in your Son's holy and precious name. Amen.
Amen. Nice prayer, bro.
Yeah.
So, again, you and I,
Yep.
we're going to try and get all the guests that we want to get on here, but we hope you guys are cool with just chilling with us today as we get back to some of those fun discussions.
We're starting a 2-parter. At least that's how we think this is going to go.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we're occasionally gonna break it up into 2 episodes or 3 episodes, depending on how we feel like the subject matter can be kind of taken a little bit.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but these past few weeks where Kara and I have been traveling have been a much needed rest and retreat for us. Mm-hmm. It was kind of stressful putting it together just because we had 10 days. So we really wanted to kind of capitalize on it and see a bunch of the state of Colorado, which was where we went.
Right.
So we made plans to fly out there and then drive around the Rockies.
Boom.
So we went to like several different places. We even went down to Santa Fe, New Mexico. We stayed in a yurt.
Oh yeah.
So that was like straight up camping.
That was so awesome sounding.
New Mexico was cold. It's down there, like down south.
Yeah, you'd think
close to the border of Mexico itself.
The equator, getting closer to that would make it warmer.
No, not so when you have a desert. At night it actually gets freezing.
Oh yeah, right. Mm-hmm. That's true.
So we were just a little bit chilly. The heater apparently was out in the yurt, so we had these like space heaters that the people got for us. But you know, still good, still a great trip. We did a ton of hiking. And it was just great to be out in God's creation. And so, that was really kind of what reminded me, like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be taking these little breaks every now and then just to kind of like get out and get away. Those little retreats are so important.
I agree. I've never been to Colorado, but I've been dying to like plan a time to go, like a trip, because me and Jessica are enamored with the like the landscape of it.
Yeah.
And all the times you went and you sent us pictures, it looks really neat.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. If you haven't seen the Rockies.
And then of course New Mexico as well.
Yeah, it's even different. You know, because there's straight up desert, like Death Valley Desert, and then there's Rocky Mountains, which are snow capped and jagged and really crazy looking. The part of New Mexico, like Santa Fe that we were in, is kind of like, it's like an in-between. It's sort of mountainous and kind of desert.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's different.
So, before we get into anything deeper, I guess I'll tell you a little bit about my trip.
Yeah.
We went to Branson, Missouri. Hashtag Brandmo. Because of Branson, Missouri.
Yeah.
I might just say hashtags this whole episode because it's so dumb to say that. But, no,
I mean, hashtags could help our podcast out, so.
I don't know how that works. For all of you guys listening, I do only the Facebook stuff, and Zach handles Twitter and Instagram. So hopefully that bears good fruit, and hopefully, But I have no idea what's going on with Twitter and Instagram. So hashtag away, Zach. But I'll just say my trip was really great. A few things that I noticed on my trip is that it really hit me. Like, one thing about trips, I think, and one thing about like not working is that it's not necessarily like the night or the morning when you first get up and realize you don't have to go anywhere. It's more like the whole like cycle of that, going like, all right, I'm getting up, I'm going to do stuff. And then at the end of the evening being like, I don't have to go to bed early.
Yeah.
And then not
I have
having
no
to set
responsibilities
alarm.
tomorrow. I mean, I have things I want to see.
I don't have to set an alarm, and then you wake up in the morning and you don't immediately have to rush out of bed and get stuff started. And it's like that really hit us like on, because we went on Labor Day like weekend, but then that was when we first started the trip.
Yeah.
But then we did the whole week leading up to the next weekend. And it was crazy, like, because, you know, like Monday morning came, we were like, but then it was really like transition to Tuesday morning where we knew like we could stay up super late. We were like, oh man, like, wow, that feels nice.
Yeah.
and
really
just not
does.
having things to think about, I guess.
Yeah.
Is like for the next day. But yeah, as far as like things that we did in Branson, we saw an amazing musical. We saw Samson at the Sight and Sound Theater. Anybody who is a Christian, anybody who's not a Christian, far and away like the best.
If you're just into
show.
musicals,
Like
even.
the best show I've seen.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking. I'm saying like best experience I've ever had
Yeah.
seeing something entertaining.
Oh wow!
It was that
So
good.
it was like a super awesome live experience.
So good. Anybody
Yeah.
who is in that area, anybody who wants to take a trip and see them, I think they're only going to be showing Samson for a little while longer. But man, was it good! And
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we did that. We had on our anniversary, we did like a romantic dinner at this place called the Keeter Center, and it was like at a college.
Oh yeah, it was your guys' anniversary too, because you guys went a week after we had already left.
And it was your guys'
Because
anniversary.
our anniversary was the week before your guys.
It works out good for the podcast
yeah.
because we can switch in and
Yeah.
out.
Well, it was awesome because our anniversary dinner was this place that Kara found on like TripAdvisor.
Yeah.
And it was called the Rabbit Hole.
Ooh.
And so you just go downtown Colorado Springs, and there's just kind of this little door with steps going down. It's just in the middle of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
It says Rabbit Hole. And you go down there to the bottom, and it's this weird, like, it looks like an old wine cellar. There's, like, cobblestone walls and stuff.
Right.
And all the tables are, like, back in all these different, like, little nooks and crannies.
So it feels like it
was
like kind of half fantasy, half historical.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It had all this, like there were all these, like, bookshelves and stuff. So it was almost like Alice in Wonderland themed, like,
sounds
straight
awesome.
down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Or, as I like to think of it, it was kind of like a hobbit hole. So it felt like home to us.
And that means comfort as far as I know.
yeah.
That's awesome. Well, this Keeter Center place was like in a college, or
Yeah.
if you can think about like Bria has like the Boone Tavern.
Yeah.
It was sort of kind of like that, but it was weird. Like we pulled up and it was called College of the Ozarks, and we rolled in there.
Yeah.
And so we had a great experience, and there was like a waitress and then like the person studying with her, like learning how to do the job.
Oh, cool.
But they were dressed up in those like chef's like white
Oh, wow.
shirt things, and they were very professional. And
Was it like the puffy shirt from Seinfeld?
I don't know. Wait,
The pirate shirt.
Yeah. Sort of kind of like that. You know, like sort of like the soup Nazi guy has. He's like that little folded over thing with the buttons on it.
Actual chef.
Yeah, an actual
Wow.
chef thing. So, essentially, they were super nice. They were Christian. Like everywhere
Yeah.
we went, it was like a Christian thing. And it was funny because we went there, and I'm not saying we didn't want Christian stuff. It's just we didn't expect as much as we got. So we did that, and it was a very romantic dinner. We got kind of like apparently in the College of the Ozarks, they grow like a lot of agricultural animals like right on the campus, and then use them for that restaurant, which I was
cool.
like, ooh, that's neat.
So farm fresh stuff.
Yeah, so I had like
Yeah.
steak and
That's awesome.
yeah. So let me see what else. We rented a 2-person kayak the day
that's
before we
awesome.
left, and we went out on this lake, Table Rock Lake or something like that.
Yeah.
And then we went hiking. I got bit by a black widow spider and got bad exhaustion. That was like a rough day.
I saw that on Facebook. You were asking, does anybody
What is
know
that?
what this bite is?
What is this thing on my leg? Everybody was like, "Oh, that's a spider bite, buddy." Is it supposed to go down after a week of being really puffy and red? Because it's not.
Is it supposed to get better? What if I pick at it? Does that make it better?
Yeah. So just like you, man, it was like a great trip. It was relaxing. I mean, we also went to a cave. There was a lot of stuff that we did, but it was ultimately like super duper fun.
Rest and relaxation.
I like that
for
you
sure.
guys just like every step of the way in your trip, you were like taking pictures and posting.
Yeah,
That was
so
pretty
I
cool.
found a card reader that my phone could plug into.
Oh, nice.
Because I knew that we were just going to take a ton of pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to not lose track of them. So I'm like, I'm just going to post every night instead of posting like 5,000 pictures at the end of the trip. So
yeah, I'm way less organized than you. I just dump them all into a folder and call it like phone pictures.
Yeah. But yeah, it helped that. So I don't know. I don't even know if I told you this, but I have some old lenses that used to be my dad's and some that used to be Kara's dad's.
Oh, cool.
And they were like old, like Nikon and Canon like lenses.
Yeah.
I actually found a converter so it works with our old like Sony Nex camera.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, they don't all work like completely great. Like the telephoto lens, like you can't get it. It seems like no matter what I do, I can't get it completely sharp.
Okay.
But it's really neat. These old like I don't know, like 60s and 70s lenses.
Yeah.
And they're plugging into this newer camera. So I should show you that.
Nice. Yeah, you should. For all of our people listening that don't know this, me and Zach have had a long history of trying to do stuff together.
We've always done videos and things.
And even before we did the podcast, before we were even technically right around the time that we first met, we started doing like videos and stuff. And then eventually we tried to get a business going. And for like a year or two, we did pretty well. Yeah. We bought a nice Sony camera. But now what's funny is that like at the time when we bought that camera, it might have been like just... It would have been like relatively extravagant, but nothing like too crazy. But now, what that Sony camera can do, like a phone could like do
I know,
better.
yeah. My phone actually does a higher resolution, but it just doesn't have the right lenses, you know?
And it's just funny how that works. Like I wonder what other things will just get like the phone technology will take care of the profession of it.
Yeah. The world just keeps on moving and does not rest.
Oh yeah. So, okay, so we talked about our trips. That you have another thing here. What are we excited about for the summer here?
Yeah, we could go more into this later, but basically the biggest news for me is that I get to start an internship, and I did start it today.
Woo!
So, are you doing it? There you go. Yeah, that's cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, so I get to work with Asbury Seminary, the chapel office, and get to work with worship leaders, and it's going to be great.
That sounds pretty awesome. I wish I had as good a news. We just have carpet beetles in our car.
Oh, gosh.
It's like our only new news. But as far as things I'm excited for the summer, there are some cool things that I feel like the podcast is going to get involved with.
Yeah, definitely.
As soon as school starts back up, me and Zach are going to hit that campus pretty hard. We're going to like start doing maybe some live shows. So that'll be a lot of fun. Maybe
change my mind, right?
No, definitely. I don't want to debate with anybody. I would rather show them love, not define the word.
Yeah, there you go.
As the song says that we wrote. But it would be fun to get out there and play some worship music and like ask people some cool questions, maybe just that are passing by on campus. Find out maybe how the college perspective plays into kind of like some of these interesting philosophical Christian topics that we discuss on.
It'd be interesting to hear from people. We heard from youth a while back, and so it'd be cool to bring the college perspective in too. It'll
be maybe a tough or cringy thing, but we should ask non-Christians the question, what's one thing you would change about the church? But I think that would cause some issues, but maybe it would be interesting to see how...
We've done it before, so we could see what happens.
Like college is for me a very like scary thing these days because of like the kind of the way our new generation coming up is handling like the way that we look at church, the way that we look at everything, politics. So it'll be interesting. But I'm excited for the future of the podcast and just what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It's going to be awesome.
It is going to be awesome, Zach.
Yep.
So,
but we have to remember to take Sabbaths.
We do have to remember to take Sabbaths.
To Sabbath well.
Why, Zach? Why?
Well, for no other reason. God did command it.
Did he?
Yeah.
Did he command it in Genesis 2, which I can look up if everybody wants to see?
Yeah, you should look up Genesis 2.
All right.
Speaking of Genesis grab your Bible. And the Old Testament.
Oh, you have the Vox Dei right here. Yeah. I'll just read it in this.
The voice of God. That's right.
Vox Dei.
Yeah. So I just recently learned that the Hebrew word for rest and the Hebrew word for 7 are a very similar word.
Okay.
Rest is Shabbat, or as we say, Sabbath. The word for 7 is Shabbat. So it's almost like God worked a pun into the scripture when he said on the 7th day he rested.
In Genesis 2, starting in verse 1 and going to 3, says, "Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all of his work. And God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. So,
well, he's setting the example there, isn't he?
I mean, if God needs to take a break, think about this. God, as everybody who understands the idea, even if you're not a Christian, if you understand the idea of God, he is all powerful.
Right.
Yet he took a break.
He doesn't need to take a break. He just chose to.
And guess what? We're human beings with like crinkling bones and like worn out muscles.
We're meant to take a break.
And with tired eyes and worn out brains from thinking and stuff. And we need those breaks.
Right.
Much more than God, but he even took one. So there you go. There's a little springboard there.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, it's one of the 10 commandments, right? To honor the Sabbath day.
Wait. You're saying not only did he say it in Genesis, but he said it in the commandments too? Gosh.
For those uninitiated, yes, he did.
Wait a minute. Yeah. This seems important. So let me ask you this, Zach. Why do you think we get so tied up? I'm talking Christians as well. But why do you think Christians get so, or people in general get so bogged down with everything that they don't think to take breaks?
Yeah. Well,
what do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, there's probably multiple reasons. I would say that one is definitely that we are human and we don't have a very good understanding of our own limitations at times.
Yeah.
I mean, even for me, I get into this thing where I'm like, valuing how well I've done that week based on how much I've gotten done.
Right.
And we're not really meant to do that all the time. It can really cause burnout, which is something that we'll talk about in part 2.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea to focus this one on Sabbath, but
and I think that we can also get bogged down, frankly, because of the enemy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, who would rather see us bogged down with work so much that we're distracted from taking time to be with the Lord?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like, Jessica and I realized something when we got back from that trip, which is why I'm glad we talked about the trip. And that is that, like, as soon as I got back, I settled back, like, first day home from work, I settled back into that guy that I don't like to be.
Yeah.
Who's almost like half there, half like asleep, half like zoned out. Like, I'm like halfway engaged with my wife when we're having conversations because I'm tired and I've got to worry about all the stuff I need to get done and it's funny because like you said, you get so busy. It turns out that like you start like losing who you are.
Well, that takes your, like you said it best, your presence. Yeah. It takes your presence away from the things that you need to be focused on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So like he says in that, like what Zach was just talking about in the 10 Commandments here, it reads, and this is in the Vox Dei. It says,
yeah, that's just the NIV with a cool cover.
I just think that it's cool that it says, I want to say it like that. Is that okay? It'll be really annoying, I know, but remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy.
Yep.
6 days you shall labor and do all your work. We do, trust me.
Yeah.
But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son, or your daughter, nor your manservant, or your maidservant, nor your animals. Wait a minute. Taking your dog to the park, though. I mean...
Does that really work, though?
Nor the alien within your gates. Okay, now, Zach,
you're bringing E.T. into it?
You went to New Mexico. That's kind of near Nevada.
And they have Roswell, New Mexico. That's right.
Yep.
And Area 51, where they were keeping the Independence Day aliens that Will Smith punched in the face and said,
Welcome to Earth. And Data comes up to...
that was Data.
Data comes up to Lone Star and tells him the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah.
Please, if anybody got all three of those references, please comment and let us know.
Please have a Independence Day headcanon where it really is just the Fresh Prince and the president is Lone Star.
We're never going to
working with Data, the scientist.
But even aliens at your gates, animals, maidservants, all this stuff.
Yeah.
For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Right. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath and made it holy.
Right.
So that's number 2. Already, like a bunch of times in the Bible, we've talked about the Sabbath being important.
Right.
So, at what point did it stop being important, Zach?
At what point did it stop being important?
You tell me, Mr. Seminary Major.
Yeah, I mean, it probably stopped being important as soon as people walked away from the Lord.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, that's one of the things that God kind of designed us to do, to like take a break every 7 days. I'm sure that pretty much as soon as sin entered the picture and people were not wanting to follow God's ways, Genesis 3, and even since then.
Well, like it's hard for me to wrap my head around some of the people that I can consider like taking the Sabbath day off, like not doing anything. For example, when the people in Egypt led by Moses out into like the desert for 40 years.
Yeah.
I wonder if like every 7th day they're like, we're not walking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put your stuff down.
Yeah. Well, and then, that gets into like, what does scripture mean by taking a Sabbath?
Yeah. I got some stuff in Luke we can read in a little bit, but
basically there were Pharisees who came along later and they put all these rules to the Sabbath, and they were following specific things in Leviticus to the letter that they were written, and they were making it about the rules, not about the heart.
Right.
And so Jesus clearly had an issue with that, while at the same time affirming that we need this rest every 7 days. So the Sabbath is for us to rest. So if you're making it a legalistic kind of thing, and you're saying like, oh no, we don't get up on Sunday. We have to. I mean, if your house is burning down, you're not just going to be like, sorry.
Well, see,
I can't get up and walk on the Sabbath.
So I'm sorry that I'm just rattling off scripture, but I'm going through it for a reason. So I wanted to read the Exodus 31, where God tells Moses about the Sabbath and why it's important, and why this kind of like scares people.
Okay.
Later, like the Pharisees are very like adamant about the way that it is worded to Moses. He said to Moses, say to the Israelites, you must observe my Sabbaths. This will be a sign between me and you for the generations to come, so you may know that I am the Lord who makes you holy. Observe the Sabbath because it is holy to you. Anyone who desecrates it must be put to death.
Yeah.
Whoever does any work on that day must be cut off from his people. For 6 days, work is to be done, but the 7th day is a Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath day must be put to death. The Israelites are to observe the Sabbath, celebrating it for generations to come as a lasting covenant. So that's why that covenant is such a big deal all the way through Judea, through the God's people. It will be a sign between me and the Israelites forever. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth. On the 7th day he abstained from work and rested. When the Lord finished speaking to Moses at Mount Sinai, he gave him 2 tablets. We know the inscribed with the finger of God. So what's funny is that's like the last thing he says to him, and it's like a big deal, right? Mm-hmm. And he says like, for 6 days you will work. On the 7th day you will not work.
Right.
Now, the tough part about that is, what does work mean?
Yeah.
See, now what's funny is to you and I, picking up a guitar and playing at our house while we're chilled out on the couch doesn't work.
Yeah. That's an interesting point, because there are times where picking up a guitar and playing does equal work. It depends on where it's being played.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I think that
if it's a paid gig or a worship outing that I'm supposed to be planning or leading, something that I've put work into, that I have responsibilities for, that is work. But if I'm sitting at the house and I'm just, learning some new song that I want to learn and just chilling out and playing whatever comes to mind, it's the same exact physical action, but it's not work.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is I almost wonder if that, like, I mean, I think that, I'm sure there's some scriptural basis for this, but this is kind of a very like intricate like idea that I'm having. But the idea that work is subjective,
Yeah.
and it almost seems like if that's the case, if work is subjective, then God is telling us to like let ourselves have a break.
Yeah.
It's not like a certain type of action that denotes work.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, God is God. And so just like with a lot of things that we've talked about on this podcast, it's really more about where your heart is with God about it.
Yeah.
Like if you go to God and you say, God, I will pray with Jessica when I get a chance. Right now I have to like run out and do this thing. Right. God might be like, you need a break.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You need to come to me and just chill and pray.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's right. It's about the heart. I mean, when are you sitting and letting God speak to your heart and like treat your heart if you're always working, always going? That's a
big thing for me too. And that's part of why I thought it was interesting that we saw a lot of like the God in like what we were doing in Branson.
Yeah.
It was very weird because for a time we were so bogged down with everything that it almost felt like talking to God was like a foggy thing.
Yeah.
Because we had all these different things to worry about. And it's funny when you like pray at dinner and you just like unload all of your junk and you give it to God. It's almost like you're dwelling on the junk, not on God in that moment. And so when we got on the trip and we finally got some sleep, we realized that God was still there on our break.
Yeah.
Like he was the Samson musical. He was the Christian girls. Like we went hiking and then we went by the lake and we just jumped in the water and a guy and his wife showed up and the guy was a pastor and he had this like crazy ministry of like adopting a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
And I was just like, God's everywhere on this trip.
Yeah.
And Jessica's like, probably God telling us we need to move here because it's so awesome. I'm like, I don't know, we'll see. But
we felt the same way too, especially on the days that we had the best weather, where we were able to get out and hike.
Yeah.
So actually, I haven't told everybody this, but we took some of my dad's ashes out there.
Oh.
Yeah, because there were a few places that he said he wanted some of his ashes spread before he passed away. And I think, knowing my dad, he was probably just wanting us to try and get out there and take a trip. So my sister and her husband, they got out there 2 years ago, and I hadn't been since before my dad died, and Kara had never been to Colorado at all.
Oh,
so it was just a nice trip to go, and we went and we kind of reminisced about all these places that my dad used to love.
You never told me about that trip. That's really nice.
Yeah. So like it was definitely a God thing. The day that we hiked back in our old hometown where I used to live, we went up and hiked there's this reservoir trail in Palmer Lake.
Yeah.
And so we got to go up to the higher like mountain lake up there and spread some of his ashes. And so
very cool.
It was a way for God to kind of connect with us. And for me, it was kind of a big closure thing,
Yeah.
So
that's weird that you say that, because I actually I had my dad's ashes forever and they had never been spread. They were inside this like clock, and my mom was like, he's not in those ashes anymore.
Yeah.
Do with them kind of as you will. And so I ended up taking the trip down to Florida to all of his family and
oh yeah,
but that's a different story. But but that's cool that you did that. Yeah. And I'm sure both in that act, but also in the creation that you saw with the nice weather.
Yeah.
Felt like you're probably pretty close.
Yeah. It was just one of those times where nature kind of cleanses your soul through God working through it. And I don't know. It's hard to describe, but you need to go and do it.
Yeah, for sure. And so like getting back to that like point, just this idea that like, when we say Sabbath, we don't mean break from God.
Yeah.
But what's tough is that when you're working in ministry, as me and Zach have and are,
Yeah.
on Sunday is like your busiest day.
Yeah. Sunday becomes the work day, especially when you're on staff.
So what do you do with
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah. That's a good question. That's one that I'm still really wrestling with.
We kind of wrote that down on there, and that's like a big question.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of answers about how do you Sabbath well if you are working in ministry. How do pastors get their Sabbath in? And I think everybody's kind of different. And I've seen a lot of different strategies that people take to try and get their Sabbath in. But I just don't know if I'm really satisfied with anything that I've heard or tried on that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's tough because, for most, I would say for most Christians, but for a lot of believers who believe in the Sabbath, they say, it's that specific day. It's for a lot of Christians, it's either Saturday or Sunday.
So the thinking, I think, in modern Christianity is this: God told me to honor the Sabbath day and make it holy. So what that means is I need to make Sunday all about church, and I need to serve my church and do all this stuff for church. Which obviously the church has to do this, and this, and this, and this.
Right. Well, what's tough is like hearing people I'm talking about myself as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to like judge, but for a lot of people, they get up on Sunday and they're like, ugh, I have to go to church and sing and
I've been there. Yeah.
And that's just
When
the
you
people
have
that are coming to church. If you're in ministry and you're the one playing in church, or you're the worship leader like me and Zach have been, or you're a pastor even, or that is your job, you know? So it feels like you're not taking a break.
Yeah.
So how do you reconcile that?
Yeah. So I've seen other pastors, they'll say Friday is my Sabbath, and I'm not doing any work, just hanging out with my family because they're all off on Friday or whatever. I think that works pretty well. Just depends on like if you're blessed with the ability to do that.
Yeah.
If you have some time where your family is also off, that you're off. Some people aren't that lucky. I've heard a story about a pastor that goes and plays golf every week.
Yeah.
And he's got to he can't really take like a whole day. So he's got his little mini retreats that happen during the week. A lot of people are kind of in that sort of rhythm. I feel like maybe a better way to approach it would be to ask, why is Sunday burning people out in the first place?
Why is it?
Why does it have to be that hard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're in and I'm not trying to get, I'm not trying to get into like a big thing about like overgeneralizing, but I think society as a whole, and I'm talking every country, not just America, has this mentality of, you get up, you go to work, you make your money, you go home, you eat dinner, you go to sleep, and you do it again, right?
Yeah. And
so what's tough is getting to that point where Friday comes, you go, thank goodness, I am so tired of work. And for some people, they work every day.
Yeah.
You have factory jobs, or some people work as nursing, they just work through the weekend. And so when you finally get your day off, whatever day that is, the last thing you want to do is go, like you might just want to sit at the house, but a lot of people watch football on Sunday because, especially in the fall. And so the problem is that somehow along the way, we have associated like work and stress in some regard with church on Sunday, which is not good.
Think about it. If we're making church a consumer product, which that's how we're thinking of church these days.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be a consumer product that's going to take work, like economic work, to put together, right? I think it's just all and I'm not some anti-capitalist, but I think we're bringing a lot of the capitalistic ideas kind of into church.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're if you're working for a church, you're going to be concerned about getting people in and like making sure people feel welcome, and you're kind of making a product for people to consume and then think about whether they want to come back and get more of your product.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're buying the sermon,
Yeah.
you're buying the atmosphere in some regards. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I don't know how to reconcile all that, because I know that I want to do worship with excellence.
Absolutely.
You know, I want to put work into, if I'm leading worship or whatever, you know, I want to do that to the best of my ability. But I don't want to make it like this packaged product
that
I'm trying to sell to people, you know?
I'm not trying to like just talk about how great the church I'm going to is, and I know we've had a lot of guests from from my church on here on the podcast, but one thing that I've noticed is that a smaller, like close-knit community church that doesn't have these expectations of like big production feels to me more like a break and a meeting with God.
Right.
So like when I come there and I play music, I just grab the guitar, pull it out, and they all just go, you know, let's just play.
Wait, so you don't have to send the lyrics to the person running PowerPoints,
No.
and you don't have to plug into the soundboard and do sound check and all that?
I don't think Daniel, who my friend Daniel Sulfridge, who we should get on the show sometime, I don't think he would appreciate going back to this like laptop thing that he had to do for years.
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't even really know how to do it. People just made me do it. But it's like
Nobody knows how to do it.
But
It's just a secret.
It feels really
Trade
nice
secret.
to come with my guitar, sit down on a couch next to my wife, and they just go, just tell us what song you're doing. We'll look it up on our phone.
Yeah.
And they just Google the lyrics.
Yeah.
And it's great. And I just go, all right, let's do, you know, whatever. Let's do Blessed Assurance. Let's do this song, that song.
Maybe technology, this is kind of a big side point, but maybe technology has come to a place where we can get back to more of the simple days of church.
Yeah.
Because for a while there, the internet was this new thing, and we would use the internet to find like lyrics and chord sheets and stuff.
Right.
But you had to get on your computer to go find it, so you had to find a way to like project words onto the screen.
Yeah.
Which, like, if you know anything about song select or like any of the rules with like copyright,
Yeah.
when you bought a hymnal, all the copyright was right there. Mm-hmm. So you had your license already.
I wonder if there'll be a time in church when every pew will be stuffed with like 3 or 4 tablets
Maybe.
that just have the hymnal on them.
Yeah, because if you have a tablet full of words, that's basically like the hymnal. But no, so like apparently it's a big deal to recreate lyrics and put them on the screen. But I don't know if there's any rules about looking it up on your phone. How could there be?
But,
it's on there.
But you have just given an example. You have already like taken just the idea of like people trying to sing the song together, knowing the lyrics, and it's already very convoluted.
It's very complicated because of like laws, even.
Yeah,
and that's again pulling in like just how our society works.
And again, I'm sorry if I sound like I'm bashing modern church. I really am not. But I'm just saying that there is a inherent thing with the way that we look at church on Sunday being like work. And being like something that almost seems grating on you, like maybe we can skip this Sunday. I don't feel like doing this.
And I think there's probably ways to set it up throughout the week, maybe,
to
where it's easy to come in Sunday. But there's always going to be things that come up on Sunday, and I want to try to push back against that.
Yeah,
it's that.
I will say too, especially for introverted. I'm an extrovert, obviously.
Yeah,
but an introverted person. I've been told this by my wife and by Chrissy Duncan and a few other people that like when you go to church, it's like a social thing too.
It can be draining.
And it can be really draining for people who are a little more introverted.
Right.
And then, you know, the small groups and things. Church is very community oriented, and I think it should be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but at the same time, that can be another factor in why people feel like it's work.
Yeah.
To like go and talk to
It's
someone.
definitely work for people who are more introverted. They don't draw their energy from it. So,
right.
Yeah.
So, you know.
But I think either way, like, we should de-emphasize the responsibilities that you have to have and emphasize the fact that we're just coming together to worship the Lord. If things aren't perfect, like, maybe it's on us to look past it. Because church doesn't have to be a consumer product.
Yeah.
That needs to be super polished and everything.
It needs to be, well, I mean, yeah. It needs to be more of a, how can I put it? we need to, there needs to be a way that we can figure out to get everybody involved in church, the pastor, the worship team, all that, to come and just feel this like release of stress and like relinquishing of control, and just come and sit and like enjoy the presence of God.
Yeah.
And really learn, and, you know, and it's funny because when you think about like the scripture and like I was about to read some Luke, but I'll just tell you about the many times that Jesus gave these like sermons and stuff. Most of the people were just following them around, and they would just like sit and chill out and like listen to him. And they didn't really need to engage other than that.
Yeah.
And then afterwards they'd go back to the town and get back to their like stuff they were doing. So for them, it truly was like a break.
Yeah.
You just like go and take a seat, or you they would go and like sit in the temples and the rafters and just like chill out and listen.
Yeah.
Be like going and hanging out at your favorite, like, lunch restaurant, and then just like hearing a pastor up there.
Yeah.
It felt probably more like that to them because they had food and they just had like a place to chill out. But ours is like you said, there's so much going on. There's a lot of, anyway, it's a tough question to answer. We don't actually, I don't think me or Zach have a very good answer for this question.
I will say I experienced an example of this done really well recently. So at Asbury, we do a night of praise a couple times a semester. And this all kind of happened behind the scenes without my knowledge, but like the community had gone through some stuff during the spring semester.
Yeah.
We actually had a student, Aaron, who passed away on Easter weekend. Ooh. And there was this night of praise that was planned a couple weeks after that. Yeah. And apparently a bunch of the people who it's their job to like look after the community and kind of figure out what the community needs. Right. They were throwing together this night of praise, and they were like, yeah, we could do our normal thing where we get a band together and practice for these long hours and and put on this almost kind of not a show, but a more produced worship experience.
Yeah, exactly.
We could do that. We do that all the time. But what if we did something kind of like the ancient church did, and we had what's called a love feast? We just had this big potluck, and, Zach and whoever could lead some acoustic songs and not put too much stress on the night itself. It's just a night to kind of hang out. And so, like, I really kind of respected them for changing the plans that they had made. And they said, we're going to cancel this big gig thing that we were working on, and we're going to make it very simple. We're just going to cater some sunnies, and we're going to have people come and just eat.
Because we just want people to really relax and just enjoy fellowship and enjoy God's presence.
I think everyone really needed it. So I think that's what we should be more about. We should be more focused on like asking God, what is it that people need? Like, how do you want to reach us this time? As opposed to having our own agendas to, make this this solid package, whatever we define worship as. Yeah. This experience that we have to put all the pressure on us to make.
Well, speaking to that a little bit, this idea that like you can't. So like we talked earlier about how like work is different for different people. Yeah. And about how what God really wants is that in your heart to really take that break. It's not about a specific thing. And so in Luke chapter 6, Jesus talks about the Sabbath quite a bit because the Pharisees are giving him heck about it. Yeah. Teachers of the law. And so it says in chapter 6, verse 1 of Luke, it says, one Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields, and his disciples began to pick some heads of grain, which how much work does that take? Maybe a little, but not like that much. Rub them into their hands and eat their kernels. Some of the Pharisees asked, why are you doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?
It's not even gluten-free.
I know. You would never eat gluten on the Sabbath. You know that. Jesus answered them, have you never read what David did when he and his companions were hungry? Yeah. He entered the house of God, and taking the consecrated bread, he ate what is lawful only for priests to eat. And he also gave some to his companions. Then Jesus said to them, the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath.
That's right.
On another Sabbath, he went into the synagogue and was teaching, and a man was there whose right hand was shriveled. Now, this one's particularly interesting. The Pharisees and the teachers of the law were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus. So they were like out to get him. So they watched him closely to see if he would heal on the Sabbath. It's like, you better not heal or we're going to get you. It's like, oh my goodness. Jesus knew what they were thinking, of course, and said to the man with the shriveled hand, get up and stand in front of everyone. So he got up and stood there. Then Jesus said to them, I ask you, which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, or to save or to destroy?
Yeah.
He looked around at all of them and then said to the man, stretch out your hand. He did so, and his hand was completely restored. But they were furious and began to discuss with one another what they might do to Jesus. Yeah. And so what's hilarious about that is that Jesus isn't really doing a whole lot. He is just there, like, doing essentially what might be,
that's just natural to what he does.
I'm talking about Jesus, the man, is kind of resting in a way, but like, because I mean, obviously there's times when he's healed so much that he's like strained. Yeah. But it seemed like it was so effortless for him to do that. Right. Yeah. And he also says the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. It's like, you're going to tell me what to do on the Sabbath?
Yeah. It's his day. Yeah, and once again, it's the Pharisees completely misreading what they're supposed to do. They look at the commandment about the Sabbath, and they're like, this is about a rule that we have to follow. Right. And we have to get it right. It's all, once again, it's all on us.
Yeah, to get it right. We have to do this performance thing to understand, these certain things. And so what me and Zach had mentioned earlier is that, like, what does rest look like for you? What does resting in the Lord look like? And for me and Zach, a lot of times, this podcast isn't all that straining. I mean, we get together and it's more like a community time. So it's really nice because it is work, but it does feel like a break from just regular work. Okay.
Very rarely am I stressed about this podcast, which is nice.
Yeah. 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 I mean, a lot of times me and Zach just get to be ourselves and it's great. And so I'll just continue this last thing from later on in Luke, when he has to like address the Pharisees again. Yeah. On one Sabbath, when Jesus went to eat in the house of a prominent Pharisee, this is Luke 14, verse 1, by the way. He was being carefully watched. So stupid. There in front of him was a man suffering from dropsy, which I actually don't know what that is. Jesus asked the Pharisees and experts in the law if it is lawful to heal on the Sabbath or not, because he already had this thing with them earlier. But they remained silent. So taking hold of the man, he healed him and sent him away. Then he asked them, if one of you has a son or an ox that falls into a well on the Sabbath day, will you not immediately pull him out? And they had nothing to say. When he noticed how the guests picked the places of honor at the table, he told them this parable. Well, we know the parable, but I'm just what I'm addressing is this idea that, well, you know what? Should I read it? Should I read the parable?
I'm not sure which one it is.
When someone invites you into a wedding feast, you do not take place of honor, for a person is more distinguished than. Anyway, I don't know if that particular parable exactly covers the idea.
But his response is the key thing there.
So my whole point with his response there is like he says, if your son falls in a well, aren't you going to go and save your son? God is not going to punish you for doing something that takes priority. But what he is trying to tell the people, like his people, is that you need to set apart time to rest. Yeah. You need to do it. And it is not like everything that he has commanded of his people. I don't know if even today people understand this, but every single thing he commanded is for the good of his people. Yeah. Like it has. Like he would never say, everybody needs to jump off a cliff because it is holy for the Lord. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just, these are things that are like, they're for the building up of his kingdom, but also for the betterment of his children. And so this Sabbath day thing
it's something that we are designed to need.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's something about, I mean, I don't know exactly where like the 7-day week came from, but it's like all these different cultures like agreed on it even
Absolutely.
outside of like
Yeah.
the Hebrew
The
religion.
calendar.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
They're still doing these 7-day weeks just based on like nature, you know, that's just the natural rhythm of things. You need a day off about every 7 days. Everybody's different, but that's what the human,
every 7 weeks.
that's what the human needs apparently. So,
But yeah, so final word, Zach.
Yeah.
Why is keeping the Sabbath important?
well, because God commanded it, he set the example, and because it is what we need.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no other way around it. You're not going to be any good if you just keep going without a break.
Right. It's true.
Yeah. And you should be intentional about it too. So the reason
Actually,
why
don't be whimsical about whether or not you're gonna. You're like, oh,
I'll
maybe
take
I'll take
a break
later.
maybe if I finish all my work. Yeah. God says you're going to take a break every 7 days. Do it.
So Zach,
Plan it.
Zach, ask me, and I'll tell you.
Okay, so why is the Sabbath important to you?
It's not.
I don't need to take a break.
I'm sorry, that was really blasphemous. No, it is. It's like I can sleep when I'm dead. What's that thing from Roadhouse?
Oh yeah, everybody says that.
I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Yeah.
And so
You're such a hard worker. You'll be worn out within like 2 months.
So I think it's important to exactly for echoing all the stuff you said. Definitely because God commanded it, but I think like you said, we're ingrained with we just don't have enough energy. Like we're not built that way.
Yeah,
we are not machines that can just keep going. And there is something to be said too about silent reflection. There are plenty of other reasons to take a break besides just not having energy. Like silently meeting with God in like a quiet place and. Just kind of getting that.
Yeah. God made us to rest. I mean, if you study like sleep, scientists don't really understand like why we need to sleep a certain amount of hours, but we do. Our brain does some kind of recovery thing that we don't quite grasp.
Sleep is so important, and it's like the least prioritized thing in America and everywhere. Probably.
Oh yeah. But it's just a thing that like if you're not a Christian, you would say like nature intended it, right? But obviously for us, we're like God intended it, But it's like a thing. It's a natural rhythm that's just built into life.
Oh yeah,
that God put there for a purpose, and I think it's because there's something important about just sitting still.
Yeah.
Yep.
Boom, boom, boom. All right,
So
Zach.
there you go.
Great episode about the Sabbath.
Good stuff.
And we are just kind of breaching the surface of like, a lot of this stuff. And
we haven't even talked about the flip side.
Yeah.
About when you burn out.
We are going to hit that up next time on the podcast.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. But we just want to say thank you for listening today. We want to, of course, shout out the few patrons we have and just say thank you to them. We also want to ask that you get it if you get any time and you want to help us in any way. You should comment, rate us. You should
share our stuff.
Share us. Tell people like, hey, check out this thing. That'll be more helpful to us. And
steal your friend's phone and subscribe to us.
Agreed.
Yeah,
agreed. And then now
it's basically the same thing as bringing a friend to youth group.
As I'm saying this, you're going to be probably listening to this a few weeks later, but we are now on YouTube.
That's right.
You can like set up if you have YouTube Red or if you just have like YouTube up on your phone in your car, you can listen to us on there if you don't have like a podcast app or anything. So that might make things easier for some. And we appreciate you listening. And I guess we will catch you next time on the Houseplants Podcast.
That's right. Peace out.